whenever I first went full time, I was in a real low spot and I was going through some things and I was depressed. I got out of bed one morning and I just prayed and I said, God, put me where you want me.
Yeah.
And I told you that day I booked 4 jobs. I was the first person in my entire family to really start a business.
Really?
My first year full time, I had 396 customers, which that was cars and boats.
Yeah.
But
still. Dang.
and based on my books from what I've seen, we've grown straight at like 130,000 this year. My only drive some days was just the fact that I just kept telling myself, well, I'm making more here than I will at any job I would have without a college degree.
Yeah.
And so for the first little while, that was my only push,
Yeah,
is the fact, hey, I can go out there and make 150, 200 bucks today, and that's more than I can make at any 9-to-5 job that I could get without a degree.
Hey guys, what's up? In today's video, we are going to be doing sort of a podcast style video again. I have here Bryce from South Carolina, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so from South Carolina. He's kind of new, and what we're going to do is we're going to touch on some topics for new guys out there that are starting. He just started, I think, 1 year ago, 2 years ago?
I went full-time beginning of this year.
Yeah, he's been really, really succeeding, and I just wanted to get him here and just talk to you guys and encourage you guys that are, just trying to start businesses and grow. And he's going to ask me some questions that a new detailer would want, and then I'm also going to ask him some questions too, and we're just going to spitball. So put your phone down, put it in your headphones while you're working or something, and just listen, because you're going to get a ton of value out of this. Guys, like always, if you get any value out of this video, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that little bell notification so every time I make a video, it'll pop up. And also, do me a favor, comment down below where you're listening from, and also any questions that you may have. If you're a new guy and you have some questions, write down below, and I will personally get back to you as soon as I can. All right, man, so with all of that said, why don't you, can you just go ahead and introduce yourself, like name, age, kind of where you at, and just maybe a little bit about, how you got started and why you got started in boat detailing.
Yeah, of course. Well, I'm Bryce Sanders. I grew up in Georgetown, South Carolina, but I live in Myrtle Beach now. And my company is Real Clean Professional Detailing, and we do boats, and we pretty much do about everything now, because it's just, if it can be cleaned, we clean it. I started out in marinas when I was 14 years old. I'd go stand on the dock, wash boats for tips, pump gas, and they couldn't even give me a job, so I was just literally working for tips.
Yeah.
And
How old were you when you were doing that?
I was 14.
Sweet, cool.
And then when I turned 15, I was old enough they could finally give me a job, and so I started off as a dockhand, and I'd kind of do the same thing, and I got to drive some boats around, so it was a fun job.
Yeah, sick.
And kind of similar thing, I'd wash boats after work for tips when the guys go out all day, and I went through that for probably 4 or 5 years, and that's whenever I kind of made the call that I was going to start legitimately detailing, not just washing boats. And so
is that like all you were doing was just washing customers' boats? How much were you making back then just washing a boat?
Like 50 to 80 bucks.
Man, come on.
Yeah.
You were big balling.
At that point, I thought I was.
Yeah.
But so that was around, I would say I was probably 20 when I actually picked up my first buffer. I'd watched the detailers that came in and out the marina, and so I kind of had an idea, but I really had no clue. I found like a Surehold video on YouTube, and that was about all there was at that point. And so,
dude, Surehold actually, they actually have pretty decent technique. Like, I've watched a few of their buffing videos. I'm like, dude, they're actually kind of doing it right. I mean, they're doing the side to side, up, down. I'm actually proud of that, because a lot of mainstream, they're just cleaner wax and stuff, but they actually do pretty decent stuff. So
yeah, they definitely had the right techniques. There was a lot of me just figuring out how much compound to use, what type of compound to use, and that type of deal. But I started out with Restorer wax, and that's pretty much all I was using.
Yeah.
And so I used that for a while, and then I got up with a detailer, and on my days off from the marina, I would actually go out there with him, and he was like, yeah, you can clean boats with me. And so we'd detail boats, and he kind of taught me a little better technique, and that's whenever he kind of put me on Presta and started using their stuff.
Yeah.
And it was at that point, I thought I was the man. I knew exactly what I was doing. I was the professional.
Yeah. How old were you at this point?
I was 21 at this point.
21. Okay, cool.
And so it was around that time that I thought I knew what I was doing, but looking back now, I was just still clueless.
Yeah. And you were still part-time, right? Were you still working at the marina?
Yeah. At this point, this was probably January of last year. I was still part-time.
Okay, cool.
And so
of 2020 or 2019. Gotcha.
Yeah, I keep forgetting it's a new year.
Yeah.
But so at that point, I was just working at the marina, and then I'd line up customers' boats to where they'd let me detail them at the marina, and somehow they'd let me ride the marina's insurance since I was an employee.
Yeah, sweet.
And and so it worked out that way. And so I did that for like 3 or 4 months, and all of a sudden I got like 3 or 4 bookings, and I was like, oh, I'm set. I'm
Nice.
going
Yeah.
full time.
Yeah.
And so I went full time, and it just like it was literally the company started in February. In March, I went full time.
Oh, sweet.
And
Dang.
so it kind of I did very well for a couple weeks, and I ran out of work.
Oh man.
And
You weren't an instant success like everybody else in the world.
yeah, apparently I did something wrong, but I had no clue. I just was like, oh, I got an LLC. I'm 21 years old. Like, I'm good to go now.
Yeah.
So I ended up running out of work, but with me working in a couple marinas while I did have work, they all found out that I could run marina forklifts, and so everywhere I went, I got a job offer.
Nice.
And so I kind of made them bargain back and forth until they gave me a job, and I went back into the marina, and I was still detailing on the side, like as I could get boats, and I was actually pushing them a little harder at that point. So I'd see a customer on a dock with a dirty boat. I'm like, hey, I detail boats. If you need your boat done, just let me know. And I think at that point I had some business cards made up, so I was passing those out and leaving them on people's boats. And so I did that up until December of 2019. And at the marina, they basically told me I had no room for advancement, that I'd advance as far as I was going to go in the marina industry, except for management. And management, it wasn't a big change. And so that's whenever I left the marina and went full-time with the detailing. And at that point, I had a couple boats going on, but it was January. So where I'm at, I mean, it doesn't get real cold, but people don't use their boats this time of year. And so I branched out, started doing some cars and stuff just to kind of fill the voids and fill the gaps. And it was around probably March. It was like right after COVID hit. It was like people got home and just staring at their boats and things like that, and the dirty boats. And so then I started getting calls left and right. And so I booked probably 3-4 weeks worth of work in less than a week.
That was what, probably March of this year?
Yeah, that was March of this year.
Yeah.
And so from that point, it was just like it just kind of kept coming, and I ended up within a couple weeks of me detailing full time, I actually had a marina reach out to me, and they said they had a detailer and they just weren't happy with the work, and they were just looking for somebody new, and so they gave me my first run on one of their boats.
Yeah.
And so they were so impressed with me there that I ended up getting all their boats now.
Yeah.
And
I want to make a point on that, guys, that like that's a big deal, because a lot of people think like these marinas are like locked up, and 99% of the time they're not. They usually have like some guy that they just tolerate because it's that guy just chilling. And it's like, man, if you watch my videos or you have your own technique and you're actually good, a lot of the times you can scoop in these marinas, man, and make a ton of money, because most of the marinas like where I'm at, and you know, not so much anymore, because a lot of the detailers that I kind of personally coach in my area, you know, we're all getting pretty good, but we're locking up these marinas where before, you know, 2, 3, 4 years ago, the marina guy would be just usually older guys. It's weird. Like they're usually older guys that just been running a Rotary for 20, 30 years, and they're on their way out. And, you know, a lot of times it's these guys that don't really know what they're doing. So if you go in there with flexes and you know, DAs, and you know what you're doing and you're making boats shine, a lot of these marinas would be easy to snap up just like that. So that's a big point. Like if you're just starting out, dude, don't be afraid to go to some marinas and try to contract some work like he did. And like he said, you do one and do a great job, and these marinas are like, great, we finally have someone that's actually good here. Boom, 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 boom. So, yeah, cool.
Yeah, and a lot of times the reason they're riding these detailers that are usually subpar, not all the time, that's not always the case, but a lot of the marinas, they deal with subpar detailers because for one, they're cheap, and for two, they just, that's all they've ever known, or that sometimes they're grandfathered in under new ownership. Yeah. And so if you turn out quality work, I mean, at the very least, you'll pick up a few boats at that marina, if not the whole marina in some instances, because actually after that, I ended up getting a reference for another marina, and I did a boat there, and it was the same thing. As soon as the marina saw my work and saw how I did and saw how I was there on time every morning and I was efficient. Yeah. And as soon as they saw that, it was like the boats kept coming for those two marinas, and it just like kind of started growing and growing from there to a point that like I'm getting calls now 3-4 hours away. Dang. With people, and it's like, I'll ask them, how'd you hear about me? And they're like, oh, well, you did so-and-so's boat, and he as a good friend of mine, and even though he's 2 hours away, he told me about you, and he said you do great work and that I should give you a shot. And it's like, I'll do that boat. And then it's like, next thing you know, in that particular area, 2 hours away from my house, I start getting 4 or 5 boats calling me, and it kind of multiplies.
Grows and grows, yeah. And dude, that's the power of word of mouth, man. Because like, I mean, you up until just recently, you didn't have like big marketing budgets, and you still really don't, but like you didn't have like all this grand marketing that people think you have to do. Like you have to go do all this expensive marketing. You're just doing good work, and word of mouth travels fast,
Exactly.
especially if you're good in an area where there's not a lot of good detailers at, you know what I mean? Which is a lot in the boat industry. It's hard to come by really good detailers.
Oh, it is, because like in my area, there's 50, 60 detailers, but I only know of probably 2 to 3 reputable ones that I would trust to, like, if I couldn't get to something, to refer them.
For sure, yeah.
And so after that, we kind of it just kept growing, and now we're to a point where I was trying to hire employees, and it's hard to find good help too these days. And so
good luck with that.
And so we ran into a lot of issues with that, and just the efficiency wasn't there, the quality wasn't there. I was having to kind of run behind myself all day long.
Yeah.
And so now I've gotten to a point to where my brother ended up coming on full time with me. He's 20. His name's Blake.
Sweet.
And he came on full time, and he's kind of got the same drive and hustle as me. And so it's been really good for us because our efficiencies went up, our profit margins have went up because I'm not paying out employees that weren't getting anything done.
Yeah.
And so we've got a solid system now to where we know what we're doing when we show up, and we can get out there, and we've had very good customer satisfaction. I've been getting nothing but 5 stars on Google.
Sweet.
Because I recently, as you know, I revamped my site, and Bryant did it for me.
Yeah.
And
which is the guy that we use. So if you need a good website, hit me up, or go down below. I'll have a link. And they make a big difference. He was just saying, he's like, man, I don't know what Bryant, which is the guy that that I sub out. He's like, I don't know what he's doing, but it's working.
Yeah, because the first site I had, it was just a basic Google My Business setup, and I just threw it together myself. Never made a website in my life.
Yeah.
And I threw it together, and in 2 years, it got like 1,010 views.
Yeah.
And I think I had 2 leads in that time.
Yeah.
And since Bryant finished my site probably 2-3 weeks ago, I've already had about 10-15 leads.
Yeah.
And of those, I've probably nailed down at least 5 to 7 of them.
In what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
Yeah, so the website's already paid for itself.
Yeah, it's already paid for itself in 3 weeks. Man, that's crazy. I'm glad you said that. That's cool. So, man, that's awesome. So, is there anything else you want to kind of share just from where you started to kind of now, or I pretty much covered it all, huh?
Well, I mean, I got to give a shout out to your videos, because what I thought was good work was far from it.
Yeah.
I remember back whenever I was getting going good, and it's like I thought I was the man. I knew what I was the detailer.
Yeah.
And it's like I started watching your videos and seeing like, hey, that looks like what I did. And then you're like, yeah, that looks terrible. And I'm like, I got to go back to the drawing board on this.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's funny, man. And, we kind of, I don't know, how did you find my video? Was it on YouTube, or was it through the Boat Detailer Forum, or
I think it was back whenever you had just done a couple like promo videos.
Yeah.
And I started seeing those, and then I saw where you made a new channel.
On the forum itself, or
no, on YouTube.
Oh, okay, I got you.
And so then I just started kind of digging and digging.
Sweet.
And the next thing I know, I watched all of them.
Nice, dang, that's sick, dude. Yeah, that's cool, because I know we've we've talked on the forums and stuff too, and it's like, man, when you learn from other people that are better than you, that's when you really up your game. That's what happened with me. I thought I was the freaking bee's knees, dude. I was bleaching boats down and compounding them with a rotary and slapping wax and calling it a day for years, and I thought I was the best. I told everybody, I'm like, man, I'm the best around. And then a buddy of mine went through like a real training and came back and like trained me on some stuff, and I'm like, gosh, I don't know anything.
Exactly.
And that's the thing, man. It's like when you feel like you've learned it all, that's actually when you start to fail, because it's like once you get capped off and you're like, my way is the best and it's done, it's like, man, you always got to keep learning. And this year, dude, or last year, when I started my channel, I got products thrown my way. And I had my own system. If you go watch my early videos, I have my own system. And it's like, if you watch my videos over the year, they've started to evolve, because I'm actually finding products. I'm like, gosh, man, this works like 1,000 times better, and it's just, I was just too cheap to buy other stuff, because I thought I had it figured out. And then you really realize, like, you just learn along the way, man. And we're all growing too, I actually got to make a video apologizing for one thing, because I'm like, gosh, there's such an easier way now. I'm like, I feel bad for telling people, go do it like this, and then, you find a different easier. So watch out for that video. It'll be coming up.
Yeah, my biggest game changer to date that I've found in your videos was that Flex 3401.
Yeah.
Because I was so on the fence about buying it. I was like, I've already got 4 rotaries. I already got DAs. Like, I really don't want to have to buy more machines.
Yeah.
And every time I'd have the same problem with swirls in a boat, and I'd be on the forum, and they're like, flex.
Yeah.
And I I kept thinking like, is it really that good, or are these people just sold by it? And then I finally just Black Friday, I jumped out and pulled the trigger on one, and like the first boat is like the time it saved alone paid for
Bro,
itself.
yeah, game changer. Yeah, I mean, it's like, what is it, like $400 or 380 or something like that?
Yeah.
You know, a couple, you know, whatever, $400, and it's like, man, you'll make your money back the first boat you do it on. You're like, gosh, I mean, it'll wear you out. It sucks a little bit. You know,
It is a
with-
learning curve for sure.
It'll kind of wear you out, but man, it's like, it's a game changer of a machine. If you're used to a DA, I know a lot of guys use DAs. I'm like, gosh, I just don't know how they do it, because them things stall out all the time. And I mean, they're okay for waxing and like light polishing, but when you're on a buffer for 6 hours a day, you know what I mean? You just need something with a little bite to it, and that's what that Flex really has, a lot of bite.
I was running the G9, and
Yeah.
like I could get the swirls out with it, because that was my biggest issue, is like the holograms and swirls after
Yeah.
you compound.
Yeah.
And I could get them out, but it was taking me like 8-10 passes on the same spot, and even then it wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
And that Flex, it's like most time 2-3 passes,
Yeah.
and it's flawless.
Yeah, I usually do like 4, but it's usually gone in 2.
Yeah.
But the 4 just
extra to be safe.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So, yeah, sweet. That's awesome, man. Yeah, I know the Flex really does make a huge difference in tools, man. Just having good tools makes a huge difference too. I know for years I used the Rock Harbor Freight stuff, man, for probably 4 years. Just the Harbor Freight Rotary, the Harbor Freight DA. And then, you know, the Harbor Freight DA is actually not too bad, honestly, for a cheap DA for sanding and stuff. But if you're on a budget, it's a good place to start. But when you upgrade your tools to like the MAKITAs or, you know, nice rotaries and the Flex, it freaking takes your level I mean, it makes it easier for you, and your quality of work just goes through the roof.
Yeah, it's actually hilarious you hit on the MAKITA, because my first buffer my parents got me for Christmas, it was like an eBay buffer. It was like a $50 one.
Craftsman or
something. And I mean, I was getting some results from it, so I was like,
you were the best, right?
Exactly, I was the best. And so I thought I had it going on, and one day I was down at Marina in Charleston, and I was using my eBay buffer, and one of the guys on the dock, he was one of the dock masters there, and he said, hey, he said, I got a MAKITA, give it a try and see how you like it.
Yeah.
And I used it for like 10 minutes, and I went straight to the store and bought one.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'll never go back.
Well, they're nice, man, because those cheaper ones, when you press on them, they'll bog down and slow down and, like, you know, heat up real bad.
The speed knob, it got where it would just ramp up when it felt
Yeah, for sure. They'll, like, short out and stuff. It's crazy. Those MAKITAs are bulletproof, too, man. I've dropped them in salt water and dried them off and used them again. So.
Exactly. Mine's been a tank, because even the first one I ever bought, I probably did 200-300 boats with it, and it quit. But the only reason it quit was because of a wiring issue. It wasn't because it went bad. It was just a wire, and I couldn't trace it down. I could have fixed it if I'd had the right equipment and tools.
For sure. Well, cool, man. Well, let's do this. Let's, you know, we're already a couple minutes into this, so I'll ask you a few questions, just being kind of a new guy, kind of things you learned, and then we'll transition where you maybe ask me a few questions, and then we'll wrap this up and put a nice little bow on it. So
that'll work.
Sweet, man. So what would you say was, like, did you have any fears when you started? Like, were you like, man, am I going to fail? Am I going to make it? What was your mindset? Like, kind of, you know, truthfully, what was your personality mindset?
Well, my personality, I'm one of those people, like, I'm going to jump out there and try anything I put my mind to.
Yeah.
And so I was really gung-ho about it. Even back when I had one brush and a bucket of soap, I was just like, oh, I'm going to jump out here and run with it.
Yeah.
And so I never really had the fear of it failing, because I'm just the type of person, if it would have failed, I knew I could bounce back from it.
Yeah.
And so that was never really a fear for me, but it was more of one of those things where, how can I grow this? And how can I improve from here? And once I went full time, that's when I really started digging into it and figuring out, all right, well, I need to do some marketing. I need some logos. I need a professional appearance. So that's when I started getting shirts and business cards and stickers on my vehicles to match when I show up. So
were you already making money before you did all that? Or? Yeah.
I'd probably done 20-30 boats by that point.
See, a lot of people think you need all that stuff before you start. I'm like, bro, just get out there, start doing it.
You see my truck, I don't have a single logo on it right now. I just bought it 2 months ago, but I just hadn't had time to go put a logo. But I mean, I show up to Marina and get it done.
Yeah, that's it, dude.
But for me, I never really had the fear of jumping out there and do it. I have friends who did have that fear, and when they did jump out there, they've done really well as well. Yeah. And we actually pass work back and forth and spitball ideas with each other, marketing ideas and different ways to do things. When you find that, like the Flex, I've told all my buddies, I was like, if you don't have one, go buy one.
Yeah.
And because it really was that big of a game changer, and I could even send them videos showing them the difference. Yeah. They were like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And so I'd say I was just so gung ho. I was just ready to roll.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about the bad of it.
Yeah, dude, that's how I was too, man. I was working for a detailer when I first started. I worked for a guy for like 8 or 9 months. I knew nothing about detailing. Worked with him for about 8 or 9 months, and then come winter time, actually it was September, October, November. So it was October. I got married in November 15th. It was 2 weeks before my wedding. The guy was like, "Hey man, I love you, but I can't afford to pay you anymore, so I'm gonna have to fire you." And I was like, "Dang!" And he worked out a little deal where I could buy all my tools and stuff from him. And dude, I was 2 weeks before I got married, and I literally had no job, And then I was like, I'm doing it. I'm just gonna do it. And I called my wife, and good thing my wife is like super supportive, and she was like, "Let's do it. I believe in you." So literally 2 weeks before I got married, I like got fired technically, and then just started my business, man. And I wish I could say it was rainbows and sunshines, but I never starved. My family always went, and we just kept pushing through and pushing through, even when it was scary and like didn't even. It didn't make sense on paper, but we just kept pushing through. All right, so kind of next question for you, man. When you got started and you were rolling, was there anything that you I guess noticed straight off the back, man, I gotta improve in this area? I know we kind of talked about the flex, but was there anything where you're even mindset wise, man, I gotta shape up, I gotta show up to work a little better? Was there anything you were man, I gotta improve my life a little bit?
I think my biggest one was sanding.
Yeah.
Or wet sanding, because at that point I would compound a boat, and in my head that was the best I knew. So I would tell customers this is the best this boat's gonna get. And a lot of times you could still see the oxidation coming through, and so that was my biggest one, was learning how to wet sand. And it was one of those things where I'd watch some videos. You didn't have your wet sanding videos posted yet, but I'd tested out some hoods and stuff on cars just to kind of get my feet wet. And so I got my first job where I could see where wet sanding, I could benefit from it. And so I went out there and I did my test spot, and it looked 10 times better than any boat I'd ever done before.
Yeah.
And so I kind of started there, and at that point I was using the 3M Trizact. And I had success with it, but I got away from the paper disc because those discs in particular, they were kind of clogged up on me.
Yeah. What are you using now? Just Aberlons or MAKITA Aberlons?
The Abernays and Aberlons.
Okay, sweet. Yeah.
That's only sandpaper I run now.
Yeah, it's good stuff, man. I'm glad you said that, because we talked earlier, or yesterday, man, if a boat's oxidized, I'm pretty much wet sanding it, because it just levels the playing field, and all you got to do is hit it with some buffers. And I know you have a little bit of a different technique even than I do, which is cool. But it's you just hit it with some buffers after you sand it, and it just comes back. You don't have all that cloudiness, that splotchiness coming back and stuff. Sanding is it just makes everything
and you're
a lot
buffing
easier.
it 3 times to get the same result. Once and buffing
it. That's cool, man. So we got wet sanding. That's definitely a big technique, man, that a lot of new people, like you said earlier, you're just using cleaner waxes and stuff, and then you're man, I gotta go sand boats. It just sounds scary, but it's really not, man. I mean, it's whenever you're using 1,000 grit or 2,000 grit, it's kind of hard to mess up a boat. You gotta kind of try, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's why now even whenever my brother, I was getting him into it with me, I trained him on sanding first, because I feel like sanding's safer than running the rotary sometimes if you really aren't comfortable with it, because there's so much heat coming off the rotary.
For sure,
so if you're not moving it, or if they don't know to keep it moving.
Yeah.
So I'll typically train sanding first and then go to buffing, because they get the up, down, side to side pattern, how to keep it moving. And I tell them, as long as you keep the surface wet, when we're running 1,000, 2,000 grit, you're not going to hurt nothing.
Yeah.
And so that was a big point for me, is once I learned the sanding, it changed everything for me and saved me a lot of time and headache.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. So, and then what about business side, man? Is there did you never owned a business before this, right? So what have you learned about yourself with business and the actual starting a business side of this, being only a year, a real true year into it?
I know my resume is insane now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I've learned a lot over the last year, because it's like a whole new world to me, because I was used to a job where I just get up, I go do my job, and I go home.
Yeah.
And with your own business, it goes way outside of that, because I took marketing classes this year.
Sweet.
I took videography classes, cinematography classes, just anything I could find to improve my, I just went through a spell where my marketing was my main goal, and I was going to learn everything there was to know about running ads.
Yeah.
and presentation as far as your post online. And so I spent a lot of time and emphasis on that, and I feel like I've gotten a pretty good grasp. I still got room for improvement, but as far as like my videos and stuff, they've came a long way since the first one.
Yeah. Well, and I'm glad you said that, because dude, I've told so many people, like, man, make little promo videos. That's like one of the smartest things you can do, especially if you don't have a ton of money. Everyone's got a cell phone on them. You know what I mean? Like, get your cell phone out, put it on 4K, 60 frames per second, because you can always slow down the footage. I know it might be gibberish to a lot of people, but man, get you some nice shots. Put it on iMovie if you got a Mac for free. And dude, my videos, just making little 30-second promo videos, like before and after videos, have changed my business,
Yeah, and that's what I was telling you today is I started doing promo videos about 3 months ago, and I picked up like 400 or 500 likes on Facebook just from people like seeing it and it catching their attention, them sharing it.
Yeah.
Because like normally you post a picture of a boat, just a before and after, like you'll catch some attention, but it's just not that appealing compared to like you getting a video of like different angles of the boat and what you're working on and how you're doing it. And so I've actually gotten a lot more exposure since I started doing the videos.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it makes you look more professional too, I think, because no one else is doing it.
For sure. Like I went back to my guy that designed my logo, and I was like, I need a watermark.
Yeah.
And so now I can watermark my videos. Yeah. So it's not just like a logo at the front or back. It's throughout the whole video. So they'll have that reminder in their head of my logo.
Yeah.
At least to some extent.
Yeah, that's it. Where did you take those classes? Was it like online course or something? Or
yeah, I found some online courses at like my local technical college, and I wasn't going for a degree or anything, so I just kind of went and picked out the classes that I really wanted to get some insight and information on and kind of learn. And I just went through, and I'd take those classes in the evening time when I got off work. I'd just get home and kick back and get on the computer and just learn what I could.
There's a website called Udemy. I think it's like Udemy, I believe, udemy.com. I'll put a link down below if you guys are interested, but that's I took that, man, when I first started my business, and it's like just like courses. It's not like accredited or anything, but it's a bunch of courses, and they're like $10, and you can do like video, anything you want. The biggest one for me was like marketing classes and like learning like Google Ads and stuff. That's how I learned a lot about Google Ads and stuff, was through those classes. And I think it was like $10 or something like that for the course.
Go back and watch those myself.
Yeah, go check them out. I think it's like udemy.com or something like that. It's really cool. So what about like, business, like it's definitely grown you though, right? I mean, as a person, like, you know what I mean?
Sure. That's why I was joking that my resume is impressive now, because I've learned how to market. I've learned how to manage people. I've learned how to manage money.
Yeah.
I've learned to like see my profit margins and see where all my money is going, see how much I'm bringing in, how much is going out. It's really it's taught me a lot about myself, because up until the point I went full time, I'd always had a job where I showed up, I did my job, I went home.
Yeah.
But I never had a job that financially compensated me enough to where I would push myself to limits to see how far and how capable I am.
Yeah.
And as far as starting my own business, it took me to limits I never imagined I even had, because there was just sides of my personality I'd never seen, and just things that I was intrigued about that never seemed intriguing before.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it definitely showed me a new side of myself, and it pushed me to limits, because it taught me that as long as I'm passionate about it and I'm compensated correctly for it, I'll go to extremes to get jobs done and make things happen and work long hours. And it's really shown me a new side of myself, because up until that point, it was just like, it was a job. I go there, I go home.
For sure. Yeah. And I know, like, before I owned my own business, I actually was not the best employee. Like, I would like kind of show up kind of late, and like I wasn't that great. But when I got my own business, it was like mine, and it almost like I changed into a perfectionist, and I'm like motivated. I'm like, this ain't me, man. I used to, when I was high school, just smoking weed and drinking was kind of my motivation, and now it's like since I started my business and a lot of other things with God and all this stuff, it's like all that stuff just like left, and now I'm like focused. I like wake up early and read and work out. Like,
exactly.
It'll change you, man.
Yeah, it's turned me into a completely different person, because I was the same way. I was only working for beer money or to go out that night, and then it's like I'd go into work next morning on 2 hours of sleep, because I knew, all I got to do is sit on a forklift, or I guess got to sit on the dock.
Yeah. You don't feel like you have any purpose. You know what I mean?
And it's like now when I get up, it's like I want to make sure I'm rested good, because I know like whatever I get done today determines how my day goes the next day, or it determines if I get paid that week or not. So it kind of puts a little more pressure on you, but it's good pressure, because it pushes you to be a better person.
Yeah, and I tell guys too, man. It's like, Dude, it's like it's a major faith builder and confidence builder too, because it's like, man, when you work your butt off and you do a great job and they pay you, it's like it makes you feel good about yourself versus just going to a job, clocking in, clocking out. It's like you don't really care, you know what I mean? It like I don't know, man, it just does something to you where it just makes you want to be better and do better, you know. And
Absolutely.
a lot of business owners aren't like that, but it's like there's a select few, man, that just like want to be the best. And like that's for me too. It's like I don't care what I'm doing. I want to be the best at it. You know, I just picked up basketball this last year, and my entire life have been completely garbage at basketball. And I'll spend, sometimes an hour a day, a couple hours a week,
Yeah.
literally out there just doing layups and layups. I'm like, I ain't going in the NBA. I'm not doing anything, but I want to be better than my friends.
Exactly.
you know.
Yeah. And
So
that's how detailing was for me is when I first got started, I mean, I wasn't really getting the results I wanted. And so it didn't really make me have that drive because I wasn't happy with the
yeah,
work I was doing. But as I got better and as I progressed and got to where now I'm a complete perfectionist.
yeah,
Like
for sure.
I've had a number of boats where I'd do an extra one or two steps even after I'd already locked in a price just for my
Yeah,
satisfaction because I wanted the boat to be perfect even if the customer never saw
yeah,
what I was
yeah,
doing
yeah,
or never appreciated it like I did. It was for my satisfaction,
for
but
sure.
98% of the time the customers saw that extra time and normally I'd get a good tip out
Yeah,
of
yeah,
it
yeah,
or at the very least a Google review
for
that
sure. Yeah,
or a good reference. Actually, I did one boat in this neighborhood. They found me on Facebook, and this was probably 3-4 weeks ago. I did one boat in that neighborhood, and since then they have sent me 6 more boats in
dang.
that same neighborhood in the same trailer lot.
Nice, dude. That's sick. Yeah, just by doing good work. That's
Yep.
it. I mean, plain and simple. And going the extra mile. That I'm a big thing. I'm a big believer in going the extra mile and just doing the right thing every single time, man. Like the boat he was actually helping me on today, which is going to be a video coming up soon. And if you're watching this later, it's already on my channel. But he spent 5 hours doing the metal today.
At least
I was
five
like, dude,
hours.
this sucks. I'm like, yeah, it's rusty. And I actually am not even charging the customer for that technically,
Yeah.
because we're doing a full restore and that wasn't necessarily included in it. But it's like, you know what, dude, why the heck not? We're doing such a good job. Let's just go the extra mile and make this thing look
Oh
perfect,
yeah. I even looked at you at one point. I was like, "Is there anything am I doing this wrong? Like I'm taking forever."
Like, no, it's metal. It just sucks.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool, man. Well, hey, I mean, you don't have to, you ain't got to talk numbers and specific numbers, but I just want to give you guys kind of a glimpse of like where he's at currently and being really successful, one, at a younger age, and two, at a younger business age, with only really being full time in 1 year. How many jobs did you book last year in your first year? And I mean, if you want to talk numbers, cool, go for it, like, money
Yeah.
wise, but you ain't got to if you don't want.
My first year full time, my invoices they itemize and number themselves, and so I had 396 customers this year, which that was
Jeez.
cars and
Yeah,
boats.
yeah.
But
Still, dang.
and based on my books from what I've seen, we've grossed right at like 130,000 this year,
Dude.
which I didn't take home nowhere near that.
Yeah, but
because my first year, I mean, I just in my mileage and fuel alone, I had almost 18,000
Yeah.
because me getting started, I was covering like probably 120-mile spread just
Yeah.
to stay busy. But no, we had a lot better year than I expected because my goal for the year was to grow 75,
Yeah,
and I passed that back in like July.
yeah. That's crazy,
And
man.
so we've been real blessed and fortunate, and I'm definitely gonna give credit to God because I pray a lot about it and pray about guidance on what I do in
Yeah.
certain situations, or if I have a bad day, I'm praying all day long.
Yeah, dude.
And so yeah, it really was a great year. I mean, I had a lot of ups and downs and a lot of learning curves and
Yeah.
trial and error, and so, but I feel like I've gotten a good grasp now, and I'm getting the jobs now, and it's like most boats. I mean, you always got your surprises, but for the majority of them, I can glance at it and go, "Oh, it needs this and this."
Yeah.
And it's like 90% of the time I'm right, and then it's like you'll get that one Sea Ray or that one boat like we're working on now. And
Yeah.
it's like it'll throw you for a spin, but it's like you've trained for it and you've seen it before,
Yeah.
so you just try another test spot and roll.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That dude, that's insane. I mean, you said what, 130, right? Yeah,
Yep.
dude. And I think my first full year, I want to say I took home like 42. I mean, that's crazy, man. Like that's insane.
Yeah.
And I mean, a big thing too. You told me, I don't know when, a couple months ago, but like you've basically doubled your prices, correct?
Oh,
Too?
and that was because of you.
Yeah.
Because I thought I was right on the money, and then
Yeah.
I started seeing your prices, and you're still a lot higher than me, but for my area, I'm actually the highest in my area now,
Yeah.
and it blows my mind because I'm the highest in the area, and I'm still have other detailers calling me going, man, I can't even find work for the week,
Dude, yeah.
and I'm explaining to them like, man, I've been booked out for 3-4 weeks. We've been working 7 days a week just to
Dude.
stay on schedule,
Yeah.
and so yeah, it's blowing my mind. Like if you'd have told me 6 months ago I'd be where we're at now, I'd have laughed at you
Yeah,
because
that's crazy.
it didn't even seem realistic at the time, but
Yeah.
it's really been amazing.
Yeah, that's super cool, man. And Bryce, I'm not paying you to say that. So
No,
I mean,
no.
like, he doesn't pay me anything monthly or nothing. Like, this is 100% free. And the reason why he's even here, he was down in Florida, and he's like, hey man, can I drive over? He's like 9 hours away, and I was like, oh, I mean, if you want. And he got an Airbnb, and I mean, dude, and came over here and just hung out with me for a few days, and like that just shows you right there his determination and just want to grow and get better, and and just. And man, it's like if you want to succeed in business, you have to have that mindset. You know?
Exactly. And it was just one of those things like I knew I had a good grasp on a lot of aspects of my business, but with me being a year old, I knew there was ways I could improve.
Yeah.
And some things that you can improve on, you can't really completely make a video on it. And so it was just one of those things. I just wanted to be around you and just see, like, even as far as scheduling and what kind of hours you work, and see how far you schedule jobs and how long you give yourself on jobs, because that's been a struggle for me so far. Is just I'll look at a boat and I'm an optimist. So I'm like, oh, it'll be done in 2 days, and then a week later I'm still on the same boat.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Yesterday I was like, yeah, we'll do the entire hole in one day. Today it took us 2 full days to get the hole done. We're like, dang.
That was a big one for me, is just being able to come down here and just hang out with you, and just I just wanted to tag along with you and work and just see where I could improve at.
Yeah,
and
dude.
I mean, already I've found a new way to polish metal.
Sweet,
and an improved way, and I've found that I was running the flex way too fast.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's just little things like that, but it's every little thing counts as far as efficiency and just ways you can get a better result.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's super cool, man. And dude, that's insane, man. Like, for your first year, and I think it's cool that you said my videos, is because one of the big things, man, when I started this channel, it took me about 5 years to get to where I'm currently priced at, technically.
Yeah.
And I've been about where I'm priced at for about 2 years now. And dude, I mean, those first 5 years sucked. Like, I mean, I was day in, day out grinding and taking home 30, 40,000. And like, literally I went from like 30 or about 38, I think my first year, like anywhere between, you got cash and all that stuff. So it's like 38 to 45. And then I went to like 50 and then 70. And then I went from like 75 to like 280. And it was like, holy crap. And that was when I just doubled my prices. And the cool thing was, and you told me this, and I was hoping you'd say it on your own, but I'm gonna fish it out of you. When you double your prices, the weirdest freaking thing happens.
Changes
It's
your
like,
whole clientele.
dude, you change your clientele and you get like booked out crazy. I'm like, I never thought, like, I doubled my prices. One, because my quality doubled. That was my main reason. It's like I doubled my quality, so I was like, man, I've got to charge more. But when I started charging more, I doubled my like clientele. I would be booked out, like right now I'm currently booked out like 3 or 4 months, and it's like, it's insane. I'm traveling to the Keys. I'm traveling to Jacksonville in a few months. Yep. It's like, dude, it's crazy. And it just happened from upping my prices. And I have detailers in my area, currently in my area. I'm not talking bad about people, but they will literally tell you, man, no one's ever going to pay these prices. It's hard getting, $500 out of a customer. I'm like, bro, you have no idea, man. And it's when you're fighting for that cheapest detail, you're going to stay down there for a long time, dude. And you just got to take that leap of faith, man.
Yeah, you have to draw your line that sets you apart.
For sure.
That was the big thing for me this year. And any guy that's worked with me this year, even whenever I had bad experiences with my employees, they all knew what I expected. And I told them, I said, I don't care if you spend 2 extra days on this boat. I want it perfect before we walk away from it. And it really did set me apart to a point to where I had customers who said, I've had 10 detailers do this boat, and you touch stuff that's never been done before on this boat. And so it changed my whole clientele, and I started booking like insanely, because it went from me staying a week or 2 out to where now I'm typically a month and a half out at any given time.
Yeah.
And it's like, even whenever
within your first or second year, technically. Yeah. That's crazy.
And it's like, even whenever I'll get a little nervous, I'll get like 3 weeks out. And it's like that 3 week out mark, all of a sudden I'll book 5 or 6
Trying
boats.
to book them back up again.
Like I was telling you today, like just today alone, I booked 6 cars and 4 boats on the schedule.
Crazy, dude. That's insane, man. That's awesome. But one point too, and I know you did it as well. You didn't up your prices until you were already booked out and your quality doubled. You know, it's hard to double your prices when you're still doing cleaner wax specials.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
Or
And
you're only booked out a week and you're just like, man, I want more money. It's like, bro, you might want to hold off a little
yeah,
bit.
I've had a couple buddies, and we have like a detailing Snapchat group, and we just kind of spitball stuff at
Yeah.
each other, and they're just different guys all over the country. It
Yeah.
actually came out of one of the detailing forums. But we actually were spitballing. One of the guys was like, yeah, I'm about to up my prices because he asked me what my prices were, and I told him, and he said, well, he's like, I'm about the same with you, but I think I'm gonna go up. And this is the same guy that, like, I was talking to him a couple days prior, and he was like, man, I don't have any cars to do this
Yeah.
week, or I don't have any boats to do this week. And I was just like, man, I understand it changes your clientele, but you got to have current clientele
Yeah.
to get to that point.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. So,
And
all right, well, we're getting kind of far into this, so I love the conversation. It's been good, man. I think this is gonna help a lot of people with just confidence and stuff. So, let's spitball maybe 3 or 4 questions that you might have for me. That one that I don't, I don't know any of the questions, but something that would personally help you out, or like, if you were brand new and you knew nothing, what would have been something that you wish you could have asked somebody like right out the gate?
my big one is I kind of hinted on with you today is like my hardest learning curve was tight areas.
Yeah.
And just figuring out what to do in those tighter areas.
Yeah, yeah,
And you've done a couple videos on it, and it just gave me some insight, and that was actually part of the reason I pulled the trigger on a mini polisher.
yeah.
And it did help me with a lot of areas. And I mean, that was one of my hardest learning curves, is just basically telling a customer, hey, I can't get this spot.
Yeah.
Or like when I hand compounded, it didn't match up. And
Yeah.
so that was one of my biggest learning curves, was those tight
Yeah.
areas, like around the transom brackets on the outboard
yeah.
motors, and back there in the transom, or like down where the drains are. I just never could
Yeah.
get those spots, and I struggled with that for the longest. And you posted a video, and it gave me some insight on it. And so then I kind of, based off your videos, I found some methods that I thought might work, and it was the same concept: mini polisher, 1-inch pads, 2-inch pads. And so based off of that, that's how I was able to jump out there and just kind of try my own thing based off those videos, and it ended up working out. And I've actually found a couple alternatives to that as well,
Yeah.
such as like a rotary extension with a 1-inch backing plate on it.
Yeah.
And that was probably my biggest learning curve. And then also as far as the wash processes,
Yeah.
because before, I mean, my initial wash was a door pine, and so I was basically waxing it as I washed it with like a semi-wax. And a big game changer was when I watched your video on you washing a boat and stripping everything off with Dawn. I mean, even some of the oxidation, it was peeling that off as well.
Yeah.
So I was actually able to do, like, I'd walk up and feel a boat and it'd feel chalky, and I go, oh, it needs 600 grit.
Yeah.
And then by the time I got it washed, it's like 1000's clearing it up perfect.
Yeah. It'll kind of knock that top layer off. And I'm glad you brought up like the tight areas, because that's a big thing people ask me all the time. Like, man, how do you get in there? And a lot of times, man, I was telling you earlier, is like, the PXE80 is a good little tool to get in kind of 1-inch areas, small areas. And then you have by the drain, drains, the PXE80, or what do you have, the hybrid, right?
Yeah,
the Rupes. Which is a good machine too. That'll work too. But then a lot of times, man, it's like sometimes you just can't get them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what you have to do in those cases is just do it by hand. You know what I mean? Do a light wet sand with like 2000. If you use 2000 grit by hand, it's technically more like a 1000 grit because your pressure. Hand it out, and then maybe some compound. But a lot of times you can blend it in really well, or just get really creative with your rotary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Flip that joker upside down.
And that's what I was kind of
do it behind your back if you have to.
That's what I was kind of hitting at, is looking back now, when I was getting started, I wish I would have knew about rotary extensions.
Yeah.
Because once I had a MAKITA, they right there on Marine Detail Supply now, they have the rotary extensions, and they have 1-inch backing plates to go on your MAKITA.
Yeah.
And so you can get pretty much the same results with that, instead of having to fork the money out if you don't have it at the time. You could start with that as a way to get started with it, and then you could upgrade to a smaller polisher, because having that big rotary in those tight spots isn't fun regardless.
For
but
sure.
It does give you an option.
Yeah. All right. So I know you got a few questions that you just kind of wanted to ask me on a personal level. So what you got?
I know my answer to this, but I'm curious to hear yours. What's your favorite part about being self-employed?
Favorite part about being self-employed? That's a good question. I think my true like favorite part is, I guess this is a two-part question or a two-part answer. My true favorite part is that I feel like I have control over my future.
That's my big one.
Yeah. It's like I don't feel that I'm capped off anywhere. I think that's my favorite part is like, if I want something, I can go get it. If I want to improve, I can do it. If I want to take the day off, I can do it. Technically, I don't a lot of times, but it's like, I feel like almost it puts me in the driver's seat of my life. You know what I mean?
And that's kind of where I got, because when I was working at Marina, like I told you, they basically told me at 22, 21 years old, oh, well, there's no room for advancement.
Yeah.
And it's like, so I went with the detailing because I was like, oh, I can decide when I advance, how I advance, and how much money I make.
Yeah.
And it's up to me. And that was a big part. And I always said, oh, I can make my own schedule now. But it's like sometimes the schedule makes you.
For sure, yeah. Well, I put on my Instagram bio or something. It's like, don't run your business. Don't let your business run you. And it's kind of cheesy, but it's so true, dude. Because for years, my business ran my life like crazy. But and I said it was a two-part answer because it's like I have control over my life. But with being a Christian, one of the biggest things that I love about being self-employed is I feel like it doesn't put a cap on what God can provide for me and my family.
Absolutely.
Like that's a big thing for me, man. And like I felt like God told me to start my company years ago, and through crazy circumstances and stuff, I did, and kind of touched on it earlier. Where I got fired technically and all this stuff, but one of the biggest things of me is like, man, I can't tell you how many times, especially when I first started out being a Christian, I would just like pray. I'm like, God, you have got to come through. Like we need to pay bills. And like, it was weird, man. 20 minutes later, I'd get a call for, $300. I'm like, gosh, yes, dude.
Yeah.
Or it's like back, when you're working for somebody, dude, and you can't pay your bills, you ain't doing much unless you got a side hustle or something. But dude, it's weird. I mean, I can't tell you. It's so crazy. Like how many time after time after time after time, I do something, and like give a homeless person money or like tithe to my church when I really didn't want to because I needed the money. I'd tithe, and like literally 20 minutes later, I'd get a call for like $2,000. It's like, it's insane, man.
And I hinted on, I talked to you about this earlier, but I didn't really bring it up in here. But whenever I first went full time, I was in a real low spot, and I was going through some things, and I was depressed. And I realized that what I was doing wasn't working because I was just laying in bed all day and moping in my own pity, so to speak. And so I got out of bed one morning and I just prayed and I said, God, put me where you want me.
Yeah.
And I told you that day I booked 4 jobs.
Yeah.
And
it's
so
insane.
that day too, I said, God, you got me out here at the boat. Just show me where you want me.
Yeah.
And so from then, that's whenever it really took off.
Dude.
And it just, my relationship with God has gotten a lot closer through it because it's like now I don't have, like I have to be at jobs at a certain time, but it's not as strict as having a boss. So like I have my mornings where I might sleep in an extra 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Or I might go sit on the beach and do a Bible study.
Yeah.
And so I like that freedom of it.
For sure, man. It's so cool, man. And it like I said, the biggest thing is like it doesn't cap what the Lord can do. He can just bless you like anytime. Whereas like if you work for somebody making $17 an hour, it's like, could God still do it? But it's like you're kind of under some other man's, ruling of money, at that point. So that's a cool question, man. You got another one?
Yeah. What would you say your biggest learning curve was when you were getting started?
Biggest learning curve. I think probably my biggest learning curve was just learning the business or like learning detailing. I've always been somewhat good at business. My dad has been self-employed my whole life. So that he's modeled that for me. And so I kind of like saw that played out. So the business aspect, I've always been like smart. I've always worked with my dad, like hand in hand, with what he does. He does like car window tinting and stuff. But my biggest learning curve, man, was just detailing. I hated, I never washed my own car. Like I remember when I first got that job, detailing for that other company, I had some like black streak marks in my paint, and I remember telling him like, can that come out? And my dude was like, yeah. Like now I'm like, duh, like even wax could take that out. But I knew nothing. So my biggest learning curve, man, was just learning, I knew nothing about buffers and rotaries, and I knew none of this, absolutely none of it. And I never took a traditional course either. Like
me either.
Everything I learned was from either YouTube, and really when I started, there was not a lot of car stuff. I think the only thing that was on YouTube when I first started was like chemical guys stuff,
Yeah, and that's when they were just getting going good.
Yeah, it really wasn't much. So my biggest learning curve, man, and it took me 5.5 years to really learn some stuff, but like I practically destroyed boats for my first 5 years, you know.
I completely
I'm
agree with
bleaching
you.
every freaking thing and throwing compound and just slapping some wax on, and that was my jam.
Yeah, I had some boats I had compound, and I was like, I know the wax is gonna make it look bad, so I'm just not gonna wax
Yeah,
it.
don't even. I've talked so many customers out of waxing their boats. It's not even funny.
Yeah, I've been there. But,
yeah, I mean I think that was my biggest thing, man. It's just like learning curve, and that's what really inspired me to start this YouTube channel. Was like just to help people out there, because it's like if you can learn the detailing side, the business side of it, you'll just learn. I mean, you're never gonna truly figure that out.
Yeah,
It's
the
just
business side was tough for me because I was the first person in my entire family to really start a business.
Really? Dang, that's
because
sick.
my dad, he was a plant manager and my mom was a nurse.
Yeah, wow.
And so I just I went down to my local accountant and was just like, I want to start a business. Like, what do I need? And so like after like, he got me my LLC and all and got that set up for me. And so like tax time comes and I hadn't reported nothing. Like I had nothing written down, and I was like, where's my W-2 at? And he goes, you don't get a W-2. And so I was like, well, what do I do for taxes? And he was like, first year he really helped me out. He was very helpful because he was just like, write down how much you think you made this year and write down how much you think you spent per month in your supplies. And he said, we'll go from there.
Yeah.
And so he actually referred me to QuickBooks, and I was telling you a little bit about that today. And that QuickBooks self-employed app, it's $5 a month, and I love it because it keeps track of everything, and you can send professional invoices, and that's really been a big help for me as far as the business side, because it kind of tracks everything for you, so you can spend a little less time on the business side.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, the business side of it's a big thing, man. A lot of people write me on Instagram and stuff, and they're like, dude, like, how do you do it? And like, blah, blah. Dude, it's so much. I've actually been like thinking of like just, I don't, nothing's official yet, but I'm like, man, how can I like help more people like on a personal level with that kind of stuff? I don't know. And maybe they'll look like something more, business consulting or something down the road.
It is a huge learning curve.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, and you're always learning. I'm always freaking learning, man, especially when it comes to taxes and payrolls and all that crap, dude. It's just,
write-offs and all that.
It's a lot, man. I encourage you, man, if you're just starting out, stay single or get yourself like a partner. We talked about this on a percentage level. Roll with that for like 2 to 3 years. Don't worry about employees. Get you somebody you can pay a percentage, a nice percentage, and y'all just go bang out some boats and cars together,
just
man.
Make sure they got the same hustle you do,
for sure,
close to it.
Yeah, because you don't want to be pulling people. I like to hire people with more hustle than me.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I like to show up late and
Let
stuff.
them carry me a little bit.
Yeah. So you got one more question or anything you want to kind of close out with, or what you got?
I don't really have another question on hand, but I'd like to just ask you, how did your business affect your relationship with God, like positively or negatively?
Yeah. Dang. That might be a whole nother podcast or a whole nother video. Yeah. Man, that's a good question. So it's been crazy. Let's just say that. So my first 5 years or so, I went through a lot of ups and downs with my business because I was working my freaking butt off and not making a lot of money because I was doing a lot of little $120 cars. I was waxing cars for like $65. Like, it's bad, dude. I mean, it's horrible. Sucks. So, and I was a dummy. I did that for years, You did that for a couple months.
I watched your videos and got the insight.
Exactly. I didn't have my videos. So, dude, I went through a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety because I'm like, I wanted to be like this successful person, but I'm just a freaking car washer. So it's been amazing, but it has brought the devil out of me and the Jesus and everything else, man, because
you bet.
Dude, I mean, there was a season, man, where I got on like antidepressants. A lot of people don't know that, which I'm cool with talking about it because it helps people. But I got on antidepressants for like 6 months because it was freaking insane, man. Like
it can be a roller coaster too.
For sure,
your emotions will go crazy and for no reason.
Yeah, and I mean, I felt for years. I felt like something was wrong. Actually, I had somebody write me on Instagram the other day, and he sent me a picture of like a Steve Jobs thing. It was like, do what you love, and screw everything else. Just do whatever you love. And he was like, man, what do you make sense of this? And I was like, dude, what's funny? And it made me think. I was like, I freaking hate about 50% of what I do. I mean, literally, 50% of what I do, I absolutely detest and hate. 25%, I'm okay with. I'm like, cool. The other 20%, I'm like, I kind of like it. I enjoy it. And then there's like 5%. I actually love it. I love when a boat is freaking perfect and flawless. I absolutely hate scrubbing bird poo off the deck. You know what I mean? Like,
like
so
those days when the gel coat just will not come out. No matter what
absolutely,
you
dude.
throw
Like,
at it.
I'm pulling my hair out and stuff. So, man, it made me think. Like, it was cool that he sent me this because it really made me think. I'm like, dude, like doing what you love. A lot of times you have to do what you hate to honestly figure out what you actually love and like doing.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
absolutely.
So it's like some people think, and I did it for years, man. Like, I'm like, what is wrong with me? I freaking hate what I'm doing. I hate it. I hate it. But there was a sense of like, I love this. And what I told him, which was cool, was like, man, I went from doing little $120 Honda Civics to doing center consoles, and I found out like, oh, I actually like boats, to doing bigger boats, to doing restorations, and now I'm doing YouTube, and I'm like, I actually love doing the YouTube. I love making the videos. I love helping people. That's really my passion in life, is helping people.
Yeah.
So it's like, if I would have quit at those $120 cars when I hated it, I would have never had the YouTube. I would have never had all the other success, So it's like, I think, man, like, kind of to answer your question with God, it's like, my relationship with the Lord, he really showed me how to freaking walk out the suck. I mean, really just,
Oh, absolutely.
dude, it sucks. It's depressing. I'm fighting with my wife, and I went through some drinking, like some alcoholism stuff, and, a couple years ago, and I haven't really drank alcohol since. I had a few beers last year and a few beers the year before that, but I mean, I had a 6-month spell. It actually triggered me when an employee didn't show up for work. He didn't show up, and dude, it pissed me off, dude. And I went and got me a freaking twisted iced tea. I remember, and I went on kind of a little binger for like 4 or 5 months, dude, just because the alcohol helped relieve the stress and the anxiety, and then I got off of that, and then it was crazy, man. But it's like, I'm just open about this stuff because I feel like a lot of people hide this crap. And when people do go through this, they feel like something's wrong with them. Yeah. It's like, bro, it's freaking normal, man.
I'm an open book, and I tell everybody that.
Yeah, dude. So with my relationship with God and my business, dude, it has been a major roller coaster. But it's been kind of this like gradually uphill battle.
Same thing here.
Yeah. And, right now, I'm 7 years into it now, I think. Yeah, 6.5, 7 years into it. And I'm to a point where it's like, man, I feel like I've somewhat arrived to where I want to be in the detailing world. You know what I mean? Like, I never wanted to be a major detailer. I could honestly care less about it, honestly. Like, I love I like detailing. I like making things shiny and stuff. But to be the, like the name brand detailer, I'm not interested.
I'm simple. I will tell you, when I first got started, my only drive some days was just the fact that I just kept telling myself, well, I'm making more here than I will at any job I would have without a college degree.
Yeah.
And so for the first little while, that was my only push, is the fact, hey, I can go out there and make $150, $200 today, and that's more than I can make at any 9-to-5 job that I could get without a degree.
Yeah.
And so that was my push for a little while, until I'd really gained the passion for it and really got the knowledge to where I could run with it and get things looking like they're supposed to look. And that's what really, where almost like my addiction to perfection came in.
Yeah. Well, dude, and with that too, with perfection, man, like the Bible's pretty clear. It also talks about like doing things unto the Lord, and it's like, doing things as though you're doing it for Christ. And it's like, a lot of times, man, it's like, I want to do perfection, you know what I mean? Because I'm trying to like not prove something to God, but just like, he creates everything with perfection. So it's like, we're actually creating in his image. Yeah. So we're supposed to do things with perfection. We're supposed to do things with excellence, and we're supposed to treat the customer right. We're supposed to do what we want people to do to us. You know what I mean? And I bring that into my business with pretty much everything. And when I'm helping people, I help people for free all the time. When people are like, bro, you should charge for this, I'm like, I mean, cool, make money, awesome. I just want to help people, honestly. Like,
I'm the same way. I mean, I have people text me all the time, hey, man, you think this scratch will come out? Or actually, I had a guy reach out to me yesterday, and I went to high school with him, so he's a friend of mine. And he was asking me, he's like, man, I just can't seem to get the floors in this boat clean. And I guided him through, like, how I clean floors, just because, like, I know, like, he's still getting going good, too, because he's my age, so it's not like he's out there making gazillion dollars or anything.
Yeah.
And so I took him through the steps of how I would do it, and it was pretty much your same strategy you use, and walked him through it. And I mean, I do that all the time, where people asking me, hey, will this scratch come out, or how do I clean this? And I have no problem telling you, because I mean, I have my own business and I have my own clients. I mean, if you just need help, or you want to do it yourself, or learn how to do it yourself, teach you all day long.
Yeah, for sure. And dude, there's so many people in the detailing industry that keep all their secrets and like, I'm not telling you my secret sauce. I'm like, get out of here.
I was
with
telling
that
you,
crap,
those guys that were cutthroat, there's a company, and they were on the dock, and it was like, they were walking by, and I was like, hey, man, the bait y'all just did looks great. And they just, like, looked at me, cut their eyes, and kept walking. Like, they're just, I was trying to give you a compliment.
Whatever, dude. I almost err on the side of giving out too much information.
Oh, absolutely. Me too.
Wow.
I'll spill the beans.
Yeah. Anyway, well, cool, guys. Hey, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. You know, if you did, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You know, comment down below if you have any questions. Man, I think it was cool. I think people are gonna get value out of this, man. And I appreciate you for coming and hang out with us and stuff.
I appreciate you letting me come, man. I was excited to come.
Yeah, dude. So, hey guys, well, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys on my next video. Sweet.